Hello, my name is Destiny Porter. I also go by the Empress V, and I am doing this live on behalf of the Purposely Awakened magazine. Now, Miss AziLove, can you please tell us more about who you are, what it is that you do, and just give our followers an overview of you as a whole?
Yeah, it's a pleasure. So I'm so excited to be here, first of all. So thank you, Destiny, so much for having me.
Of
I'm
course.
Dr. Yashima White AziLove, and I'm a master communicator, I'm a brandologist, and a marketplace mentor. I started my career as a journalist, turned marketing communication executive in the insurance, healthcare, financial services, and entertainment industry space before I actually launched my firm, Magnate Consulting, which is a communications boutique serving really global companies, celebrities, and people of influence with communications, brand, and leadership solutions. The other side of me, my dichotomy, is that I'm the founder of an organization called the Trip Network, which is an organization that is specifically for women of faith who feel just as called to the marketplace business in their careers as they are to their ministry lives. And so for those that kind of walk the dichotomy between ministry and business, it's a great network of women that is growing as a global network. Actually, we're on 3 different continents now, and really excited about the growth and expansion of that endeavor.
Nice. That is beautiful. I love it. Oh my goodness. So can you tell us a little bit more about that and what type of services are offered or in terms of your business?
Yeah, so on the Magnate side, right? So Magnate is a full service communications firm. So we provide consulting, coaching, and training. So we work with large organizations, celebrities, and people of influence are the buckets that I kind of put it in, right? So for our global clients, a contract could be everything from doing soft skills training and orientation for their rising leaders, all the way to executive coaching to their C-suite. We work with celebrities who have like books that are about to come out, movies that are launching, or records that are about to, or albums that are about to drop. And they really need a message platform for all those red carpets, message platform for their radio junkets, right? Their media tours, etc. We really frame the narrative and the story that those celebrities used when they are out on their various media tours. And the very same kind of dynamic for people of influence. So that ranges from pastors to media folks of influence, politicians can be people of influence, or just individuals that have large social media gatherings or followings where they really feel like what is happening to them really has an impact on a larger audience, and they need to frame that from a messaging perspective.
Got you. Wow, that is awesome. You explained that so very eloquently.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you.
Of course, I'm sure that's something you've learned how to do over the years working in communication. So what inspired you to even pursue marketing and communication?
Yeah, Destiny, I had a pretty severe speech impediment as a child. And my father was a pastor of a church, right? A Pentecostal church. So as a pastor's kid, you were put in front of a microphone often, right? So you're going to do the welcome address, and you're going to do the scripture reading, you're going to do the prayer, you're going to do whatever needs to be done in the church at a drop of a dime. And it was pretty severe, and it was really embarrassing. And so although I was a straight A student, honor roll student, really, really pretty sharp in terms of my cognitive, my ability to communicate what was in my head was definitely a challenge. And so I can just remember as a child really praying, like, God, if you will just give me the ability to speak with clarity, that I will give voice to the voiceless. I remember literally praying that at like 10, 11 years old, of giving voice to the voiceless. And so when it was time for me to go off to college and to pursue my career, it really kind of came back to me as, whoa, I'm supposed to give a voice to the voiceless. And I thought that meant journalism, which is what I pursued, print and television media. I stayed in that for about 1.5 years, 2 years before I really crossed over my discipline into marketing communications. And I realized the voice of the voiceless was not just about people and circumstances, but it was also products and services and offerings. They are voiceless, and my ability to give voice to that and to give color to it and to help people appreciate why they needed whatever it was that I was charged to market really became a sweet spot for me. And so the rest is history, as they say, and kind of learning the industry. So I really have learned all aspects of the marketing communications discipline. So from public relations to community relations to marketing, advertising, digital media, video production. I mean, all of it is a part of that Marcom discipline. And I was just really blessed that I've had an awesome career climb and career progression that allowed me to really spend time and space in each one of those disciplines. So by the time it was, time for me to become the chief marketing officer or the chief communication officer of the organizations I was blessed to serve, I really could do so as not a jack of all trades, master at none, but truly a jack of all trades with mastery across the discipline.
Yes.
I was really blessed to be able to have the opportunity to do that.
That is awesome. That is very awesome. And I know a lot of people tend to take for granted the serving process because they automatically want to get to the top. And so I know that people can also miss a lot of steps by doing that, by trying to rush. So what were some of the things that you really cherished during the process of serving?
Yeah, you know what? In hindsight, because you don't know that you're in a maturation process when you're in it, right? Which is why, not to be preachy, but that's the other part of me, right? That comes out. I mean, the Bible says not to resent the day of small things, right? But if you are a ruler over the small things, that God can make you ruler over much. And it is because of the learning that happens in the small place. And most of us don't have an appreciation for that season. And for me, it was really about the devil in the details, if you will, right? I needed to master the details, and I found great joy in being able to master the things that those above me really didn't know, right? And so over time, I learned not just the things I wanted to be as a leader, but the things I didn't want to be, I learned under leaders. And so I didn't respect necessarily the leaders that would send me off to do the grunt work, the assignments that were so-called beneath them. But the truth is that they just didn't know how to execute those things. So it's not that it was the little thing, it just was a little thing that they could not do. Right. And so I realized in that season of maturation, that season of servitude, that God was developing in me, both professionally and ministerially, the idea that I want to be a leader that will never ask someone to do something that I cannot do, or I don't know what it takes to do my ask. Right. Yes. And so I appreciated kind of being in that incubator. I appreciated that meantime experience in my development. It truly did make me the leader that I am today. The other part of it, which I know people don't love to hear, but is absolutely my truth, I honor the fact that most of the individuals, with the exception of one, that helped me in my climb in my corporate career were actually Caucasian men, Jewish men to be specifically. It wasn't folks that looked like me. They weren't women and they were not people of color, who opened up doors of opportunity for me. And so when I look back at that season of my life, again, I'm grateful that the favor of God was on my life, that these folks could see something in me many times that I couldn't see in myself. But again, it also shaped the kind of professional, the kind of executive that I became, because I was always looking for that talent. I was looking for the person that was like me, that was hungry, that was looking for opportunity, that didn't shun the small thing, that really wanted to get down into the details, and found pride in being able to come back with a delivery that those, regardless of their title, could not actually do.
Right. Wow. It's difficult for me to articulate because your speech is amazing. Okay, just how you talk is so amazing, and it's just very fluent, and it almost has me kind of like, hold up, I was not prepared.
Oh no!
I do interviews with you, speak so well, and it comes across, just so beautiful. But let me stay on topic. Okay. So what topics of interest do you feel like you specialize in within the realm of communication and marketing?
My specialties. So I would start with communication style is not something that very many people focus on or master, that I pride myself in. I actually developed a program. It's a digitized test. We did the research to really break down the various communication styles. So very similar to emotional intelligence, if you've heard of IQ, right? The emotional intelligence assessment, we have a communications intelligence assessment that really speaks to the personality type or the calm style of leaders. And I have found that to be really priceless as we roll out this program around with various corporations that we've had the opportunity to work with, whose executive team actually takes our assessment and then our coaching model and training program that comes along with that. Because what you realize very quickly is that communication style is less about the way that I give off information, right? Because everybody's concerned about the way they give off information. It is more about your ability to detect, to discern, to see the communication style of the person you're speaking to. So I have a higher IQ or communication quotient if I can identify the kind of communication style that Destiny needs me to have so that I can reach Destiny. So it's not about Yashima being Yashima. It's about Yashima being effective and my ability to communicate to Destiny. And so Destiny may not be able to handle my authentic style, but if I can morph my style to meet the needs of Destiny, I can make her more effective, and she can she'll run harder and stronger for me, right? As a leader, if I can get her to do that. So I would tell you, by and large, communication style is probably one of our sweet spots, and I'm really proud of, because I did the years of work researching it and actually creating a tool, an actual assessment tool to go along with that methodology. And that goes hand in hand with leadership, because typically communication style, we're talking to leaders, right? Up and coming leaders or executive leaders around their style, because it's so critical to professional gravitas, right? I mean, it's a make it, break it. Someone can be as smart as you want them to be, but if they are not articulate or their communication style is offensive, you can't hear them, you can't receive them. So, so teaching that as a leadership discipline would also be, I would say, our secondary, if you will, expertise. And then in tertiary, I would say it's brand excellence. So everything from brand excellence from a marketing perspective or from a personal branding perspective. But branding is our other sweet spot. And you can see how they all go hand in hand, right? Because communication style speaks to your leadership, which also speaks to your brand essence. So those three things are really what we do for companies, for executives, again, celebrities, and for people of influence.
Nice. I like it. I like it a lot. And I can tell it's very personal. It's not just one size fits all type deal. And I think that that's amazing. I feel like when it comes down to certain corporations, they have that approach. And I think that gives them a disadvantage over those who can accommodate, you know, their audiences in different ways. So that is absolutely amazing. Now, what has been the most challenging aspect of what you do? Because I'm sure you deal with complex people and situations. So what does that look like?
Yeah, wow, the most complex. You know, I would have to say people. People is the job. Like, people are the leadership job, right? I tell people that all the time. People want to get in the leadership for sake of titles and paychecks, right? And the title is great and the paycheck is greater, right? But at the end of the day, as a leader, you're not just a subject matter expert. You now get into the people business, and the bulk of your day is managing people. And so even as an entrepreneur, and when I go in as a consultant, I'm always advising executives, particularly in the C-suite. When I look at their calendar and I look at what it is they're doing in the day, I'm like, you're not spending enough time with people. So for me, when I think about what is the most challenging part of what I do, it is very easy to want to master things, to master marketing campaigns, to master communication platforms, to master social media blitzes. Like, stuff is easy to manage, but I don't manage stuff. I manage the people of the stuff. Because when you bring people along, when you mature them, when you raise them, when you expand them, when you build capacity for your client, if that's a company or an individual, the campaign stuff comes along. But if I can't morph the mindset of the individual I'm working, or if I can't change the corporate culture of the company that I'm supporting, I won't be effective at the stuff very long, because stuff is fading, stuff is fleeting. But people are the mainstay of any organization. You've got to get the people business right. And if you can't engage them and let them stay and ingratiate them and bring them along, right, bring them on board with you, where they can catch your vision and run with it, then you really are not in a business that is sustainable over time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And one of your articles that I did read, you reminded readers that failure is not defeat. Now, was that something you felt like you had to learn on your own, or was that something that you just always knew to stand by?
Oh, wow. Okay, so first of all, when you cyber stalking me, you're reading articles. I'm kidding. I'm glad you're reading articles. That's awesome. Wow, I wish I knew that always. No, I didn't know that always. I had to absolutely learn that. I wish that was a lesson that was just intrinsic, right? That every parent teaches a child or every teacher teaches students. I mean, it's not. That's actually not a part of our culture. We shun failure. That is what's more a part of our culture. And when we fail, we just saw it in the media, even, this week, or we've been seeing it for the last several weeks, that failure or defeat that is not taken very well can be very dangerous. It's a tragedy when that happens. And so it's only because we aren't taught how to fail. But a business principle is fail fast. And so I've learned the idea that if I can fail fast, if I can make those errors quickly, then I am that much closer to the end game or the finish line above, faster than my competition. So failure is now something that I look to do faster, realizing that it's nothing more than a lesson that gets me closer to figuring out how something really works, how it needs to really function. So failure is something I've learned to lean into and to embrace because it is absolutely the inevitable. But it takes years before you really get comfortable enough in your own skin to realize, I'm going to fail, right? This is going to happen. And all that is an indication that a lesson is being learned. And so we were okay as babies when we did it, right? Because when it was time to crawl, we were okay falling flat on our face. And when it was time to walk, we were okay with falling to our knees. When it was time to ride a bicycle, we were okay falling off the bike. And we always got back up. Failure was okay in our infantile stage, but socialization, right? Yes. The brainwashing of mistake is not okay, failure is not okay, that became intrinsic in us probably around that kindergarten, right? That 5-6 years old. And it changes our orientation for the rest of our lives if we don't make a manual shift to return to what God originally planned. That baby who knew how to get up when they fall, and that child that knows how to get up off the ground to keep riding that bike, right?
Absolutely.
And so that is who we were designed to be. And we have to return to that place in order for us to be able to appreciate why failing fast is a blessing. If you can pick yourself up, learn from those mistakes, and keep it moving. Because really, I mean, listen, Albert Einstein, what they say, he tried to make light 10,000 times. It was the 10,001 time that he got it right. So what happens if he failed at time 2,000 or time 5,000? I mean, I would have given up by then and probably believed that, most people would have said, well, this isn't meant for me, right? I got this wrong. There is no such thing as light. But it was that 10,001 time that actually said, I learned all my 10,000 lessons. Yeah. Now I'm ready for success. And you just don't know when that next time is your time for success. Girl, I failed so many times. I didn't know when the big contract was coming. You know what I mean? I didn't know when that one opportunity was going to come, or that one job was going to avail itself to me. It was applying for the job, or it was knocking on the door, waiting for it to be open. It was asking for the deal, waiting for a yes. And so it is that constant resilience to kind of get back up and do it again that I wish I could instill in everybody.
Yes, resilience is so important. And I think it's very important what you said, because I just learned something called like imposter syndrome. And one of my managers, she was just telling me Black women deal with that a lot. And it's where you are basically conditioned to place your value on yourself according to what you can accomplish, and not necessarily just for who you are. And so a lot of times, if we fail at things, then our value decreases inside of us, or at least from our perspective. So I can definitely understand where you're coming from when you say that it's okay to fail. And like you said, you know, the Bible says we should be like little children. So you're absolutely correct and on point with that. I love it. So now I know that you worked in multiple positions where you were the one promoting someone else. Did you ever have moments where you wish you were the one being promoted?
Yeah. For sure, Destiny. Yeah, I mean, you know what? I think when I first left corporate America, which was in 2010, I went back in 2014 when I had the absolute pleasure of my career to serve at Radio One, which became Urban One, and served under Kathy Hughes, just an absolute media icon. And left back out for my business in 2018. So I've had two runs, if you will, of entrepreneurship by choice, right?
Yeah.
By choice. And yeah, I mean, there's just no doubt that in each time I thought, gosh, I built somebody else's business. I've built Fortune 100 businesses, right? I was a great spokesperson for my CEOs, and I set them up as thought leaders, and I set them up at trade events and speaking opportunities and media engagements. And yeah, I wish somebody would do that for me now, right? When I'm the product, when it's now my intellectual property, when it's now my business, my enterprise, it's even though you know how to do something, that's a part of my discipline and what I did for others, it is always more challenging to package yourself and to sell yourself than to have someone else do that for you. And in the media world, as I'm sure you can appreciate, there is also more credibility that comes when someone else is repping you than when you're going around and repping yourself, right? And so I also knew that because I am a former journalist and former publicist, right? So I know how the game is played. So it was very difficult coming out and trying to figure out where dollars go, right? When it's time to hire a team, you know, hiring a publicist, you know, wasn't the first expense that I was willing to pick up, right? You want to hire salespeople, you want to hire folks that are delivering products, right? Who are doing the job, not necessarily promoting. And so it definitely was a challenge to process the right time and space when I was ready for that. I know when I started the Trip Network, the organization I shared with you earlier, that was another opportunity that I'm like, I need to promote the network. I mean, it's time to tell this story. But it's my story of struggle. It was my story of dichotomy living, right? Being this dynamic person that lived in two worlds. That is what birthed the Trip Network. And for that to come solely from me just didn't feel like it was as powerful as someone else telling that story. So just countless times in my career over the last, 10 years of being in business for myself, I can think of moments when I wish there was someone who was able to kind of tout my story, to tell that story. That's how I found you, right? The blessing of having a publicist now, to be able to say, hey, I got this, because this is a story that really needs to be told. But that takes, you have to walk into that season of your life. You have to walk into that season of your life where people are drawn to your narrative, and it won't be so hard for you to get someone to tell your story genuinely, because they'll catch the vision. They absolutely will in time.
Absolutely. And so I want to ask for my own self, because I am 24 and I'll be 25 soon, but I have a lot of friends who we're all in the same age group, and we're getting to this place where we feel like, okay, we're helping other people build their brands. We've worked for all of these other companies, and it's time for us, or at least we think it is time for us to go out and do our own thing. Would you say when you first get that urge, does that necessarily mean that it's time?
No, it does not mean that it is time. It means that it's a foretaste of glory divine. Right? It means that there is a bug that you got bit with called entrepreneurship. But entrepreneurship is not something that you just pop up and deliver. Just like a doctor can tell you, girl, you're pregnant, but that baby's not coming tomorrow. That baby's coming 9 months from now, because there's a maturation process. In fact, the earlier that baby comes, the odds are that child may not exist. That child won't be healthy. That child won't survive because you have not allowed for the incubation phase, the maturation phase. So when you say, you know what, I really do feel called to entrepreneurship, I really think that's the direction for me to go in, I'm saying, great. What's the maturation process? Because, sweetie, we've got to make sure you've got a real business plan. You got to make sure you're clear about who your audience is. You got to be clear about what that portfolio is. We got to get your finances in order, particularly in the midst of what's going on in the world right now. We need to make sure you're not walking away from quote unquote stability, because there's nothing stable anymore. So please hear me when I say it, right? But a job that, at least for the most part, we can bank on the fact that every 2 weeks there's going to be a check coming, right? What does that look like for you as an entrepreneur? There have been more Black businesses damaged in this time, where livelihoods have been wiped out by this pandemic because they were not deep enough in financial stability to withstand this season. Now, granted, nobody saw this coming at this level, this magnitude, but we are also clear that so many the majority of businesses fail in 3 years, even without a pandemic. Okay. And why is that? Because of that financial stability that is necessary. So I would say to any young person, and particularly millennials, you all are like creators. You all want to do it for yourself. You all are like, let's build it for myself. I want to make it for myself. And I commend the spirit of that. What I would want to balance in your generation, and I don't not break, because I don't want to break the spirit of that, because that is necessary. But what I want to balance in you is that if the business takes you down my path, the path where big business is your client, big business needs to know that you've got some sweat equity, that there is some intelligentsia, there's some intellectual property that's been gained through years of experience. And so while you all are absolutely a bit smarter than my generation, because you've been exposed to things that we weren't exposed to. I mean, you all literally had iPads with Google Gaga, right? We didn't know no iPad was ever in anyone's imagination but Steve Jobs, right, to ever create at that point. So there is definitely the idea that you all are advanced in terms of what it is that you know. What you're lacking now, just because of age, is just experience. And I would still say experience, like that song is, experience is the best teacher, right? You got to give yourself the opportunity to just get in the trenches and learn the trade, not just from head knowledge, but from touching it and feeling it and understanding all the people dynamics that change the textbook, because that's what you can't study. You can't study people dynamics. And that is what makes any job difficult, is understanding the people dynamic. And so I would say, make sure you go through that maturation process. So when you birth your baby, your business, it has staying power, and that you've got the tools that you need to be successful long-term.
Absolutely. Wow. That is amazing. I appreciate that advice. I'll definitely take it and run with it. And so I just wanted to ask too, because you're a very wise woman, obviously, what would you say has been your greatest triumph to this day?
Woo! Wow. I don't know that I've ever thought about it that way. You know, my mind is running because there's so many like directions I can go in, like, because my first thing is to always process kind of personal first, right? What's my first triumph? And, you know, I think what I would say to encapsulate all of it, Destiny, is after all that I've been through, I still have my joy. And that is my triumphant statement. And so after all the stuff that I've had to live through, all of the heartache and the depression and the failures and the defeats and the rejection and all of that I've had to go through, to be able to say that I'm still in my right mind, to be able to say that I still have joy, to still say that there's love in my heart, that I'm still purpose driven, that I'm destiny bound, like, that is the greatest triumph in life. And so I would never dare say that it was a job, or it was meeting a person or working for a company. It's not in the stuff, right? It's in the woman that I have been able to arise, to come out of that, and to stand before you now and be, this is my moment of triumph. The life that I live, the person that I'm being, and anything that God will ever put my hand to that I get to produce, that gets to increase others, that gets to be birthed in the earth as excellence, what one would call as excellence. That's just a byproduct, man, of the work that's been going on in Yashima's heart for years. And that's where victory is for me.
Wow, such a beautiful and graceful answer. I've never heard one like it, and I'm telling you, I've done over 20 interviews, and I've never heard anything that, like you said, encapsulates everything that way, and that is not involving a job or meeting a person, you know, and that's amazing, absolutely amazing. So can you please remind our viewers of your services and where they can find you?
Yeah, for sure. So for business, for Magnate Consulting, you can find us at magnateconsult.com. That's MAGNATE consult.com. And for the Trip Network, because I certainly want folks to join me there, you can meet me at dryashima.com. So that's DrYashima.com. And all the click-throughs that you need to be a part of that network, absolutely free of charge. It's a private Facebook group that is growing, again, over 500 women strong, 3 different continents, where we're supporting one another. And I also actually, Destiny, just started kind of inspiration at your fingertips. So I have a text group, so you can actually text YWA Connect. So YWA Connect, you can text that to 55469. And every other week on a Monday morning, bright and early, you'll get some inspirational messages and some business tips, and get for working with me personally, again, on that trip side of the house, where pricing is a lot different, because that is all around edifying and building women to really take the marketplace by force. I always say I make my business in Magnate, and I make my fulfillment through the Trip Network.
Yes, I love it. And that is something I will definitely be joining, because it sounds absolutely glorious. So please look forward to that. And again, thank you so much for allowing us to do this interview. It has been amazing for me. I mean, you've given so many jewels to me. So I really do appreciate you.
Such a joy. Thank you so much for having me. You be encouraged, sister girl. You can do this thing. You can do it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And you have a wonderful day.
Too now.
Thank you.